and the chair is pleased to recognize the chairman of the Immigration and Border Security Subcommittee, the gentleman from South Carolina, Mr. Gowdy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Mayor, I want to make sure I understand you correctly and fully. Can you support a path to legal status that does not end in citizenship?
No, I support a pathway to citizenship. I believe that's a
so there's no form of legal status that you would support short of full-fledged citizenship.
I just don't believe that's in the nation's best interest.
So the answer is no.
I believe that a pathway to full citizenship is what the Congress ought to enact.
Okay.
So sure.
And I think you earlier referenced that as a compromise, and I'm curious, a compromise between what? Because I don't hear anyone advocating for full-fledged citizenship without background checks, or full-fledged citizenship without back taxes, or full-fledged citizenship without fines. So it's a compromise between what?
Well, I think you would agree with me, Mr. Chairman, that this point that you're at right now, that you're talking about, these, the fact that they would have to pay a fine, that they would go back to the end of the line, that they would have to learn English, that has been worked up as a compromise between senators from different parties and perhaps House members.
But my question to you is, that represents a compromise between what? Because I don't know anyone who's advocating against that. So you represent that as being a compromise. A compromise strikes me as a balance between two competing principles. I don't hear anyone advocating for full-fledged citizenship with no conditions precedent at all. So how is that a compromise?
Well, it's a compromise in my mind because senators from different parties, as Americans want folks to do from different parties, came together and put together a framework. I'm sure they had their divergent views, so if we went to the beginning of the process, then I'm sure there was more divergence in their views. What was put on the table, including the planks that you just stated, represents a compromise position.
What about those who are currently here who do not desire citizenship? Would it be forced upon them, or could they opt out?
Well, I believe that throughout our history, it has been left up to the individual.
So you don't have.
I don't think anybody's talking about forcing folks to become.
So you do not, because the polls I've seen, there's a large percentage that just want to work legally. They don't desire to be full-fledged citizens. So you would not force that upon them.
What I hear are an enormous number of people who want to be full American citizens. They're patriotic people. They want to serve in the military. They want to be productive for the country. They want to be full-fledged citizens. And I believe that that's in the best interest of the nation. I don't believe that we should. I guess the alternative would be, should we bar folks from becoming citizens?
And there is not a legal status short of citizenship that you could accept under any compromise. Because the compromise you made reference to is a Senate compromise. There's no compromise short of full-fledged citizenship that you could endorse.
Well, of course, at the end of the day, this is in your hands as a Congress.
But I'm asking you.
I know, and I believe that the compromise that's been worked out by the senators and that may be worked on by the House members, that represents a great compromise and that Americans can support that.
What are some of the elements of the background check that you would be most interested in? Because the word background check means different things to different people. I assume it's more than just an NCIC check to see whether or not someone suffered a felony conviction. What do you mean by background check?
Well, and I readily acknowledge, I'm not a technical expert, not in law enforcement, and so I understand y'all are going to have a panel that's going to deal with enforcement.
But you are an attorney. You are an attorney, very well trained attorney. So
not a very good law school, though.
If you were better than most of the members of judiciary, I suspect your grades were. So what would you include in that background check? Because Mr. Forbes asked you, I thought it was a very good question. If you set the bar at felony convictions, that's a pretty high standard. For those who are under investigation by the Bureau or someone else, and you could maybe meet the level of probable cause but not beyond a reasonable doubt, would you be willing to exclude them from this path?
Well, I think that what's been discussed does go beyond just folks who have been convicted of a felony. I understand that there may be some instances, but that's going to be case specific. I think that kind of thing needs to be adjudicated. It's somewhere between assuming that somebody has committed a crime and recognizing that there are circumstances where someone does present a danger to the United States and should not be in the country. I do think that there's leeway there. Okay. I would grant you that. And these are the kinds of things that I don't disagree with the general point that, this is not easy. This is detailed. It's important work. But I believe at the end of the day that the general principles of the compromise that have been worked out in the Senate are the ones that are the best option for the United States.
My very last question to you, because I'm out of time, is this. This is not our country's first foray into amnesty. And you talked about citizenship and all the benefits that confers on folks. One of the benefits it confers is that you have the protection of the law. So how would you explain to folks in my district or Congressman Labrador's who really do place a high value on respect for the rule of law why we're doing this again if it hasn't worked in the past?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you and I would agree that, as many folks have said, we are a nation of laws. We draw our strength from the fact that we're a nation of laws. At the same time, we're also a nation of immigrants, and we've progressed as a nation because we're pragmatic. And we understand that these 11 million folks who are here, that this has to be addressed. It's in our national security interest. It's in our national economic interest. So I do think that we can find a way to punish these folks for not coming in here legally, but at the same time address the pragmatic issue that's in front of us.